Hey guys, what is up? And in this video, I'm going to be showing you all the parts needed to build the ultimate budget gaming PC geared towards 1080p gaming for only $400. So without wasting any more time, let's get straight into the video. Before I begin, I should note that prices of these parts are constantly fluctuating, so if you find the price has gone up, simply wait a few days and the price should come back down again, and I'll be sure to leave links to all of the cheapest components in the description down below. So kicking the build off with the CPU, I chose to go with the Intel Pentium G4600. Now this is currently one of the best price to performance CPUs on the market. It features Intel's latest Kaby Lake platform. It is a dual core CPU, however it is also one of the first Pentium processors to support hyperthreading. Now hyperthreading basically just means that its two cores can efficiently schedule multiple tasks so that the CPU doesn't waste any time when multitasking or doing multiple things at once, and in a lot of ways it's very similar to having 4 virtual cores when you're running multi-threaded programs. It also comes clocked in at 3.6 GHz, which is great for gaming, and it even stays surprisingly cool, so you can use the included stock cooler. Overall though, I think this is a great budget CPU for gaming, and I'm sure you guys won't be disappointed. For the motherboard, I chose to go with an MSI B250 and Pro VD motherboard, and name aside, this is actually a fairly basic board that is going to allow for some easy upgrades in the future, so if you ever want to upgrade to an i5 or i7, that option is available to you, and it's not going to break the bank at only $65. Now, one of the main selling points of this motherboard, and one of the reasons I'm recommending it to you guys, is that all the parts in this build will work right out of the box, and you won't have to do a BIOS update in order to get this up and running, so you'll be able to basically just plug everything in and it'll be up and running right away. Continuing on to the GPU, I chose the Sapphire Radeon Pulse RX 560. Now this is one of the lower end AMD cards that have just recently been released, but it still definitely packs a punch for gaming at 1080p. It comes with 2 GB of VRAM, 1 HDMI port, 1 display port, and 1 DVI-D port, and it has only 1 fan, and it's very compact, so it's easily going to fit into our micro ATX case. Now let's talk a little bit about performance. With this card you can expect to run games like CSGO at 1080p on high and still get over 160 FPS. Games like Battlefield 1, Far Cry Primal, and Rise of the Tomb Raider will run on high settings at 1080p, and you can still expect to get an average in the upper 40s, with lows dropping into the 30s. On some slightly newer games, the FPS may drop into the 40s, so you will have to drop the resolution a bit in order to get a playable frame rate. For the hard drive, I chose to go with the 1TB blue hard drive from Western Digital. Now, this is basically the go-to hard drive for people building budget builds like this, and there's a reason for that. First of all, it's very affordable at only $50. Second, it's got 64 megabytes of cache. It also runs at 7200 RPM, and it's 1 terabyte of space, which is going to be plenty for all of your media, your songs, your movies, pretty much everything including your games. Plenty of space for all that stuff. Now, I know a lot of people like using SSDs and builds, and I do too, but in a budget build like this, I feel like SSDs are still too expensive to be a viable option in a build that has this low of a budget. Overall though, I think you guys won't be disappointed. Now for RAM, I chose to go with 1 stick of 8 GB of Crucial Ballistic Sport memory. 8 GB is really all you're going to need for a build like this, and it's clocked in at 2400 MHz, so it's going to perform pretty well. Also at $55, this was the cheapest RAM I could find. Also, I chose to go with 1 stick of 8 GB, that way you can always upgrade to 16 GB in the future if you ever choose to do so, since our motherboard does support 2 sticks of RAM. So one more thing to note is that RAM prices have just been skyrocketing recently, so I'll be sure to link to the cheapest RAM I could find in the description down below. So if you go into the description and it's different RAM that's listed, that just means that this has gone up in price, and I've listed an alternative that works just as well. But overall, the main thing, like I said, is that you have 8 GB of RAM. So for our case, I chose to go with the cheapest option I could find, which was the Rosewill FBM01. Now at $23, this is going to be hard to beat in terms of value. It comes with 2 fans, an intake, and an exhaust in the back of the case. It also is micro ATX, which means it's going to be a lot more compact than your standard mid-tower case. However, that also means cable management is going to be a bit more difficult, so you may have to resort to cramming some of the cables into the corner and zip tying them down to get them out of the way. But overall though, for a budget build like this is a great option. Powering all the parts in this build, I chose to go with the EVGA 430 watt power supply. Now 430 watts is going to be plenty for all the parts in this build, and it'll even leave you some room for upgrades in the future. This power supply is non-modular, which means that cable management is going to be a little bit more difficult. However, you can't really expect it to be modular at a price like this. It's also 80+ certified, which is very nice as well. And I have actually done 2 builds with this power supply, and they're both still going strong even after a few years, so I would recommend this in a budget build like this. Anyway, that pretty much wraps it up for this build. I hope you guys found it interesting, and if you do end up building it, I'd really like to hear how it went. Anyway, that's pretty much it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in my next video.